The Galactic Council had always described humans as volatile, unpredictable, and most commonly angry. The Council's educational materials painted Earth as a planet of warriors, where violence was entertainment and conflict resolution typically involved shouting or physical confrontation. It wasn't entirely wrong. Humans did have a long history of warfare and aggressive tendencies, but it missed the nuance of human emotion. Captain Jack of the trading vessel Artemis had heard the warnings about humans. His species, the Viridians, were known for their calculated logic and emotional restraint. Yet he had hired Tom, a human engineer, against the advice of his peers. Tom was efficient, innovative, and surprisingly quiet most of the time. His occasional outbursts of frustration when machinery malfunctioned were startling but harmless. "I don't understand why everyone thinks humans are so dangerous," Jack had once told his first officer Blur. "Tom just seems passionate." Blur had simply twitched her antenna in the Viridian equivalent of a shrug. That conversation now seemed like a distant memory as Jack stared at the distress signal blinking on his command console. The Nevari, a peaceful species of scientists and artists, were broadcasting an emergency call across all frequencies. Their home planet was under attack by the Dreth, a ruthless species that harvested rare minerals with no regard for indigenous life. "The Galactic Council is deliberating on a response," reported Lur, her normally steady voice wavering slightly. "They estimate 3 days before reaching a decision." 3 days? Tom spoke up from his engineering station, his voice tight. "The Nevari don't have 3 days. The Dreth will strip half their continent by then." Jack noted the change in Tom's demeanor. The human's face had flushed a slight red, and his movements had become sharp, precise. This was the anger that the council warned about, but it didn't seem irrational to Jack. It seemed purposeful. What would humans do? Jack found himself asking. Tom looked up, surprised. "We'd help, now. But we're a trading vessel. We have minimal weapons," Lur pointed out. "We have something better," Tom replied, his eyes gleaming. "We have ingenuity and a reason to fight." Within hours, Tom had contacted Earth's Rapid Response Fleet. Unlike the Council's bureaucratic process, human emergency protocols were designed for immediate action. 3 human ships arrived at their coordinates with surprising speed, captained by individuals named Davis, Rodriguez, and Miller. The Council still hasn't authorized intervention, Jack informed them during their joint briefing. Captain Davis, a compact woman with steel-gray hair, smiled grimly. "We're not waiting for permission to save lives." The human plan was bold, perhaps reckless by Viridian standards. They would create a diversion with 2 ships while the third deployed ground teams to evacuate Nevari civilians. The Artemis would provide support and medical assistance. As they approached Nevari space, Jack observed the human crews. They moved with focused intensity, their faces set in expressions that the Council would certainly classify as angry. But Jack recognized something else now: resolve, determination, purpose. The battle was chaotic. The Dreth, surprised by the intervention, initially fell back. Their mining vessels were powerful but slow. The human ships darted between them, disrupting their formation and drawing fire away from populated areas. From the Artemis, Jack watched in awe as the humans executed maneuvers that seemed to defy physics. They weren't following standard battle protocols. They were improvising, adapting moment by moment, communicating in shorthand that even their ship aides struggled to keep up with. "How are they doing this?" Lur whispered beside him. Tom, coordinating with the ground teams, glanced over. "This is what we do. When backed into a corner, humans don't freeze or follow a rulebook. We get creative." A Dreth vessel broke through the defensive line, heading straight for a Nevari evacuation center. Captain Rodriguez's ship was too far to intercept, and Miller's was engaged with 2 other Dreth ships. "They won't make it in time," Lur calculated, her voice hollow. Tom's expression darkened further. Without hesitation, he opened a channel to Davis. "Plan Omega." "Plan Omega," Davis confirmed. Jack had no idea what Plan Omega was until he saw Davis's ship, accelerate directly toward the Dreth vessel on an apparent collision course. "They're not," Jack began. "They won't ram it," Tom assured him, though his knuckles were white on the console. "Watch." At the last possible moment, Davis's ship released a concentrated electromagnetic pulse and veered sharply upward. The pulse disabled the Dreth vessel's primary systems, leaving it drifting harmlessly away from the evacuation center. The battle continued for 6 intense hours. By the time the Dreth retreated, the humans had evacuated over 30,000 Navari civilians and disabled 7 mining vessels without a single civilian casualty. When the Galactic Council finally arrived with their response fleet, the situation was already under control. The Council representatives were visibly uncomfortable as they were greeted by the human captains, still running on adrenaline and righteous indignation. "Your intervention was unauthorized," the Council's representative stated. "There will be diplomatic consequences." "With all due respect," Captain Davis replied, her voice calm, but her eyes still blazing, "we'll accept those consequences. We couldn't stand by when lives were at stake." Later, as the Artemis prepared to depart, Jack found Tom in the engine room, methodically repairing systems strained during the battle. "The Council still calls humans angry," Jack said. "But I think I understand now what that really means." Tom looked up, raising an eyebrow. "It's not mindless rage," Jack continued. "It's passion with purpose. You get angry because you care deeply." Tom smiled slightly. "Anger is just one tool in our emotional arsenal, Captain. It tells us when something matters enough to fight for. The trick is channeling it productively." As news of the Navari rescue spread across the galaxy, other species began to view humans in a new light. They were still considered volatile and unpredictable, but many now recognized these traits as potential strengths rather than just liabilities. The Navari themselves commissioned a monument on their world, a human figure with one hand extended in peace and the other clenched in determination. The inscription read simply, "When others deliberated, they acted. When we needed saviors, only the so-called angry humans came to our rescue."